Somewhat after my 18th birthday, I actually joined mountain rescue service in Serbia. There was a call, there was a lady said that her head hurts. Actually find out that she hit the head yesterday pretty hard. Even while we were waiting for the transportation, she begins to lose her consciousness. This was the first time that I actually thought that I could do some good that actually matters. The last project that I did was creating an over-the-horizon radar. So the radar that actually detects ships beyond the line of horizon, second of the kind in the world. After the attention is all you need paper and then the first ChatGPT is out, I start to get this uncomfortable feeling. Where are we going? The potential of economic impact of AI is very significant, even with the technology that we have today. A bad outcome for me would be to have even much higher disparity in between the rich and the poor. I decided to step down from position of trade for CEO and devote myself to AI safety.
So really excited to be here with Milos Borenovic. Milos is originally from Serbia, has a background in electrical engineering, AI and product management, and is now the Chief Product Officer and Partnerships Lead at Lucid Computing. I'd love to hear more about your experience growing up in Serbia. I'm curious, what experiences had the biggest impact on shaping who you are today?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm so happy to be here at Dewi, and Blue Dot had been very impactful for me in my AI safety journey, and I'm really happy to share some of the things that might help some of the other people actually go along a similar route and help in AI safety in a similar way. So, you know what? When I was little, I was happy growing up in Serbia, but I didn't know for much else. And looking back from this point of view, I think I had a really happy childhood, but like it wasn't easy. It was scattered with wars, with uncertainty, poverty, and so on. So I think if one thing or two things, I think how it impacted me, if I had to choose, it would be probably it learned me to be resourceful and not to give up easily. So actually to like I think I have this property that when other people kind of think that it's over, I start heating up and think that it's actually prime time. So I think I'm grateful for that.
It sounds like you thrive in a crisis. So I'm curious what led you to have that characteristic.
So I think like first of all when growing up, when you didn't have like enough basic resources like shoes or sometimes even food and stuff like that, I think some of the people take as granted. And figuring out a way how to get to those is how you get resourceful. You know, I remember at one point in time in my elementary school, I just saw like a truck of some food for specific people, refugees and so on, and I knew that we also needed some of that food, so I stand in line and like asked to carry boxes or whatnot so that I can get a part of it and take it home afterwards, you know. So small things like that. When growing up, I think like one of the other things that define me is this intrinsic need to actually help other people, right? So then somewhat after my 18th birthday, I actually joined like a mountain rescue service in Serbia. And from then on, like for the past 20 or so years, I've been an active member. And this is also a part that kind of shaped me in a way that I want to be resourceful, but not only for my own good, but also for the good of the community or the others or the greater good.
That's amazing. Yeah, I have personally been rescued by Mountain Rescue in North Wales when I was rock climbing and I fell off the mountain and broke my back and my ankle. I actually didn't discover that I broke my back until a few years later. But I had to get 20 or so people from the nearby village who worked in mountain rescue had to kind of climb up the mountain and save me. So it's really awesome work, and it's very cool that you've been doing it for the past few decades. I'm curious what led you to, because I assume that not everyone in your peer group developed this sense of duty and sense of wanting to help others. So I'm curious, why do you think you developed this strong sense of I want to give back?
I think this is like, on one hand side, it's a philosophical question, but also I think it touches on how we are wired internally. And with me, I've been thinking about it a lot. And I think it comes back to a way of selfishness because I feel good when I help somebody else. So for me, it's mostly that I feel good about myself when I help someone else.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when you were a teenager in Serbia, are there any specific experiences that come to mind for you of when you tried to help others, maybe before you joined the mountain rescue?
So I remember third or fourth grade, so maybe 10 years, 11 years, a friend of mine from the class and myself, we've decided to make this ecology group, so to speak. And we actually managed to persuade the entire class to go around like this part of Belgrade where I grew up and collect like paper and waste and whatnot. And we've been doing it for, I think, a better part of the year. I still have a notebook somewhere where we noted some sort of attendance and whatnot. And then in the end, we like sold everything and then like put it to a shelter, the means, and some of it I think we also used for like a school trip for all of us or something like that. So maybe that was the first experience of that sort.
That's amazing. Before I jump into your time at university, I'd love to hear maybe one story from your experiences doing the mountain rescue. I'm curious if there are any specific rescues that were particularly salient or memorable, especially from those early years.
One of the reasons why I've also joined the mountain rescue service was also the scarcity in terms of I loved skiing very much. And going to a ski resort was very expensive at the time. Serbia has a few ski resorts, one of them being the most well known and having like the most, I would say, people skiing and so on. So this was also a way for me to kind of get to ski slopes without having to pay for those. And in Serbia, the mountain rescue service is a voluntary service, so you get to be there, you get to ski, but you're not, of course, being paid for your services. I remember like it was maybe my second or maybe third week. There was a call. There was a lady that basically said that her head hurts. She was just sitting and said, yeah, it's probably nothing, but I thought that I should call you and whatnot. So there was something about it that like I felt I should know more. And then I've started asking like more and more questions. Did she hit the head and so on? And then I've started asking the questions about yesterday to actually find out that she hit the head yesterday pretty hard. And which often is like late reaction to that might be some hemorrhage in the actual head. I actually took a decision to scramble like a really quick evac. And even while we were waiting for the transportation, she begins to lose her consciousness. We actually managed then in the end to come just in time to the emergency to give her some IV and the medicines required. And she lost her consciousness. She was struggling for a few days, but eventually she survived, and it was maybe because of decisive action that we as a team took. This was the first time that I actually thought that I could do some good that actually matters.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that story. That's great decision making. I'm sure there are many people who are very lucky to have had you rescuing them over the past few decades. Maybe to jump forward to your experience at university. So you went to the University of Belgrade to study electrical engineering. Yeah, I'm curious, why did you choose electrical engineering? What was your decision making process there?
Be honest, the decision process was very light. So after like the primary school, I enrolled for this mathematical grammar school because two of my best friends did. And right now, looking back, like I'm not overly proud of my decision process, but to be honest, like some of the things about myself, I've been discovering pretty lately. So
Mhm.
this is saying that all of this is a process. So I got in. They unfortunately didn't, and this turned out to be actually one of probably the few best schools for mathematics in Europe. After this school, there was this sort of like a default state that you go to the School of Electrical Engineering, because end of 80s, beginning of 90s, like when the war in Croatia and Bosnia broke off. Before that, the School of Electrical Engineering in Belgrade was considered probably one of the top 10 or 15 schools of electrical engineering in the world, you know, so there was a reputation. For me, I was never like the yes, in like the first few grades, I got like straight A's and everything, but then it was always around some sort of a compromise. What I want to learn versus where I can invest my time sort of more. And also throughout the university, we have a system that grades from 1 to 10. Basically, 6 is the lowest grade where you pass. And I remember always like learning to get maybe 7, unless there was a specific subject that I was really into. So if there was like a term that is more harder, so to speak, I would get 6. If it was like lighter, then I would get 8. But I don't want to do it again. But still, I want to maximize at that point in time. I want to maximize my time in the mountains because it's the mountain rescue service and so on. So time with friends and so on. So that's kind of the thing about the university years, until I've actually met my former girlfriend, my now wife. She convinced me that you're really smart. You can do masters. You know?
That's cool. That's cool. So your initial university journey was one of kind of scraping by, but having a lot of fun. And then you got convinced by your then girlfriend, now wife, to really put your socks on, get things together, and start working really hard on the electrical engineering stuff.
There is a sort of, maybe it's sad, maybe it's a funny story. I don't know. It depends on which part you want to look at it. But like when I decided to take the masters, and like School of Electrical Engineering, it's like 5 years is the undergrad, so to speak, and then 2 years are the masters. So sort of like a combination of MSc and MPhil in the UK, so to speak. So I look at it and they say like 8 is the minimum like average that they would accept students for this, and my average as you know, it's like 7 point something, you know. So I take like last 6 or 7 exams when I've decided to do this, and I get like straight 10s on all of them, and like my final grade, average grade with was 8.00. So just to get by. But then like to be funded by the state of Serbia, you need to have 8.5. So how do I do that? I wasn't used to paying for my education. So then I read some like regulations that you can actually submit scientific papers and get additional points. So I write like 2 scientific papers, one for international conference that carries 0.3, and the other one for like a national conference. And I get by literally with 800 plus 02 plus 03. I was the last person above the line to actually be to get the scholarship to participate in this. And by the way, this paper that I wrote, it helped me also with getting the PhD in the UK afterwards.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And during this time, you started working on AI, or like artificial neural networks. Is that right? Where you were doing like Wi-Fi positioning. Could you tell more about like how did you get into AI? This is in the late 2000s. What was that experience like?
Yeah, so that was around 2005, I think, and it was the days of writing feed forward neural networks in MATLAB and similar tools, and then like trying out and almost writing back propagation by yourself and things like that. Granted, there was like in MATLAB was even then had a lot of functions to offer, but oftentimes you would need to change something, add, and so on. So to me, it was very interesting. I stuck to this like positioning using AI and feed-forward neural networks to positioning in different telecommunication systems. My background was in telecommunications. I was coming from this line, but then I was really into like the AI and what the pattern matching algorithms can do. It wasn't only always AI, it was support vector and other methods at some point in time, but mostly feed forward ANNs and similar.
So back in the day, the AI systems were much more specialized for a very specific use case. For example, like trying to achieve a specific thing in telecoms, like figuring out, where should we place the Wi-Fi transmitters or something, or, something of that nature, or where are they? Whereas today we have AI systems that can do a huge number of different, like a single AI model can do a huge number of different things. And the models themselves have been trained on way more data, way more computational resources have been used to train them. Everything is bigger, everything is wider. How do you think you would have, like if we went back 20 years in the past and we showed you GPT-5, what's your guess as to how you would have reacted?
I think I would be blown away, to be honest. I was always like thinking long term that this has potential in a sense that I feel that intelligence and humankind is also an optimization machine and a class of optimization machines. When I step back enough steps, I look at like first generations, we had materials and whatnot. Then second generation, like trees, and then animals, and then human. And then I feel like what the next generation might be is actually like silicon-based platforms that we have some sort of onset here. But to be honest, and this is part of why I also wanted to join the AI safety movement in a way, but also like 20 years back when I was thinking about it, I would have thought that it would take us like hundreds of years to get there or something like that.
Yeah, that's crazy. After university, you pivoted from electrical engineering to product management. I'm curious, yeah, why did you choose to leave engineering?
My mother, she was a software architect in one of the biggest banks in Yugoslavia back in the day. So since my like age of 6 or I don't know what, we had like first Spectrum, then Commodore, then whatnot, and I was always like typing some sort of basic programs, and I mean programs in BASIC back in the days. And I was thinking like, I know about programming paradigms, and through the university I've learned more and more. But and I love doing that, but also I would love to understand this other side. So when this opportunity was given to me, I actually took it. So, and it was a very interesting job in a sense that I've traveled a lot to places where probably I wouldn't otherwise. And also, I've done some of the projects that I think are very, very uh, niche and very, very hard to get anywhere else. So, for example, the last project that I did was creating like an over-the-horizon radar. So the radar that actually detects ships beyond the line of horizon. And so this uses a salinity of the water and the ionosphere to actually ping back and forth the radio waves so that until they hit the ship and come back. So long story short, I ended up leading like a team of 25 signal processing experts and generals to create this technology that basically was existing. Only Raytheon had one of those, and we created this as a second of the kind in the world, but on a budget that I think was maybe a small fraction of what they've used. And not only that, I had the privilege to go around the world and actually sell this, and to see the actual antenna array that was 1.5 kilometers long
Oh wow, okay, that's
in one
crazy.
of the
Yeah,
countries and so on, and the system working. So
yeah.
it's something that's probably not that common, I would say, in like the ordinary engineering jobs, so to
Sure.
speak.
Yeah, what could you explain what the so you on the land you have this huge 1.5 kilometer long antenna array. It's transmitting some micro or like radio waves.
Yeah, shortwave radio,
Shortwave radio, and then it's bouncing between the ionosphere and the
ionosphere,
ocean.
and the sea. Yeah,
Yeah,
it goes, hits the ship,
and then it bounces
and comes
back.
back. You know, with microwaves, the other frequencies that are being used for radars, you have the limitation of the line of sight. So
Yeah,
basically, you have to build big antennas,
so you need
and
very
even
long
then,
wavelengths. Yeah.
yeah, even then, you can get like, because of the curvature of the Earth, you can get only maybe 50 kilometers away from the shore. And the idea here was to protect like the economic belt of a country which extends to like 270 kilometers away from the shore.
Got it, got it. So this is a country would be like, we want to make sure that enemy naval vessels or enemy kind of, we don't have another country's fishing vessels are in our territorial waters. And so we want to be able to detect this. But we obviously cannot look over the horizon with some telescope because, we can only see a few kilometers out over the horizon. And so we need some kind of big, radar system to detect them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the specific first customer that we sold to, their problem was that they had oil and they had like big those super tankers flowing out, going outside of the harbor, and then like after 50 or 60 kilometers there would be another smaller tanker that would come, and then they would actually like steal the oil. And this was like maybe in the order of a few $1 million, the loot, so to speak. But it was still for a super tanker, it was still within the range of what's acceptable to be transported. So they wanted to prevent this kind of theft.
So it's like the captain of the ship is now pocketing some extra money by selling some of the oil that they're meant to be transporting on someone else's behalf. And they're like, well, some of the oil just fell off or something. It fell off the ship, or no, there was just less oil in the boat.
Yeah, there were like 50-ton less oil.
Yeah.
It's nothing, or 100-ton or something like that.
Yeah. To jump forward a little bit after your experience there, in 2019 you joined Samasource as the VP of product, and Samasource was and still is creating these big training data sets and selling it to AI companies. I'm curious if you could maybe explain more about what the mission of that company was, and then what the AI industry was like back in 2019, before the onset of ChatGPT and other AI systems of that nature.
Back in 2019, I was approached by Leila Jana. She's the late founder of Sama. For me, it was really challenging. I enjoyed this challenge because the way how she positioned the entire business is to have sort of like a two-pronged strategy, where one is, okay, we've just took some VC money and we need to make certain amount of profits and whatnot, but also that there is, and I don't want to say secondary, but there is another set of APIs. And this is something that we've looked also very, very deeply. And this is, we were tracking how many people we are going to get out of poverty in that regards. On one hand side, you do want to make the AI systems that do labeling more automated, so that the human in the loop is more of a QA. You increase the throughputs, you increase the amount of work that a specific person can do, and the quality of the work that it does. So that was like building on the product side, but also like the strategy needs to be reinforcing in that sense that you need to make sure that you teach enough people from sub-Saharan Africa, and then you make them able to thrive in a digital economy even after Samasource. And this is what we did. There is like, I think, a really big study on where those people continued from Samasource and so on. And then after some time, I figure out that like that there are some, so at that time customers are Facebook and Oculus and Tesla. So Andrej Karpati at that time at Tesla, and like Apple and a few others. But for example, there have been stories afterwards about uh, the images that people that work with Facebook's data that they've seen. So this is something that I think started back in the days. So also like making sure that those people are actually treated in the right way, and that the job that they do is well worth a human being and dignified enough.
So here, to make sure I'm understanding this right, so Sama was hiring or contracting a large number of people in low-income countries to do a lot of data labeling, annotation work, in order to then generate these big data sets that can be sold to these big tech companies. And in combination with trying to raise a lot of money and become a successful company, Sama also saw it as one of their objectives to help lift a lot of these people from low-income countries out of poverty and into higher-paying jobs. Yeah, that's
But I think that was the main mission of Leila. She also has a book on that. It's called Give Work. So rather than giving help, funding or something, she was a big proponent of actually providing meaningful work that upskills those people so that they can uh, be useful and thrive in today's world.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you were at Sama in 2019 for a year, and then in 2020 you joined TradeCore as the chief operating officer, and then eventually became the. I'm curious if you could maybe just very briefly describe what TradeCore does or did, and what your experience was like as becoming the CEO. Especially, I'm sure a chaotic time, given you joined the organization and very quickly we entered a global pandemic.
First of all, like at Sama, at that point in time, Leila basically stepped back from her work, and my kids were starting school in kindergarten, and I was doing like everyday meetings from like 5 to, because I was working from Belgrade on San Francisco time, so up until 12 or 11 in the or 1 in the morning. And it was challenging. So after a year, I kind of figured out that the company is becoming more operational that I was thinking that it's going to become, and the vision is somewhat lost. And then after we've managed to raise the next round, basically we've decided to split. And then TradeCore, I think this is one of the biggest learnings that I have up until this point in time. It's more like I was thinking at that point in time that I can do everything. I can fix everything. I can whatever it is, I can fix it. I was thinking, yeah, that's the challenge for me. I'm up for it.
Could you briefly explain what TradeCore was doing?
So TradeCore had two main products. One is a CRM that is specifically catered for brokerages. And then out of that CRM, we've also created an API platform for people that want to build uh, financial services quicker. So imagine someone wanting to build a new Revolut or a new financial services app, and instead of building it from the scratch, they could call one set of APIs to do the KYC of the customer, another set of APIs to open an account, get a card to their user, trade crypto, like buy assets, sell assets, and so on. And then the CRM was there as well. So this was the premise of it, but it was pretty ambitious, and the company was at the time 100 people, I think. So we've done a lot, but as you mentioned, then the crisis kind of struck, and we also scaled back a bit. Then crypto winter hit. So we had I'm very grateful for the time, one for the experience, but also like for the progress that we were able to make.
How come you became the CEO where you joined the organization? It's already an established organization with a lot of staff. You join as the COO, and then eventually you become the CEO. What was that journey?
So there was one point in time where the founder of the company and then CEO decided that he wanted to step back. So I had a discussion with the board members, and they were saying that they trust me and they would like me to take on his job. And I I took it.
You were saying that one of your big learnings was you thought that you could solve any problems, but then we didn't get the punchline. What was the punchline to that learning?
Yeah, when I said I thought I could solve, I was thinking like I thought I could mend people and teams and make every team work and function and whatnot. But like during that time, I've also learned, I think, one of the probably harsher stories and harsher lessons in management, that sometimes it's just some people are not cut out for something. So you might be as well doing them a favor by saying them, hey, let's figure out a way how, how you're going to do something that you're going to be better at and where the company is going to get better.
As well as during your tenure at TradeCore, as well as a global pandemic, the AI world also changed quite a lot. When did you realize that AI was such a huge deal for the world?
After the attention is all you need paper, and then subsequently after the first ChatGPT is out, I started to get the glimpse of actually where this might be going. And like in my mind, I was thinking like, yes, that there is the data crunch in a sense that there is limited amount of data, but still it's not being used by even the very small fraction back in the day. So there is huge potential to grow. Compute, back in the day, we thought like, yeah, compute is growing at a sort of an exponential scale. So it might be a problem, but not that huge one. And then like the algorithms with the attention layer, I thought that there were strides to be made with the existing technology. So I started thinking like, what next? I start to kind of get this uncomfortable feeling. Where are we going? And although I was never one of the people that's like a doomer, I still feel that the probabilities of AI doing something catastrophically wrong are very, very small. But I feel that the impact of it that is more than catastrophic warrants more investment into understanding of what we can do to kind of control, prevent, guardrail, and so on. So it's the same approach that I had even back then, and then I started asking myself, okay, so what's the like best thing that I can do to increase the chances of my kids, your kids, everybody's kids having some sort of future that's not going to zero. At some point in time, I've decided to step down from this position of a TradeCore CEO and devote myself to AI safety.
I'm curious, what were the arguments that most resonated with you or most convincing to you about the potential risk?
There were some video clips from Robert Miles back in the days, and then the way how he explained like the intermediate and terminal goals, and the way how you can instill like a terminal goal that is very fixed, so to speak. And then when something becomes more powerful and more intelligent than you are, it's very hard for you to change that. So those are the things that with my background somehow resonated pretty strong with me. Somehow it felt that we have one chance. If this is gonna get to this position, we have one chance to get the terminal goal right. And we better either find a mechanism to change this so that we can adjust it during the post singularity time, or we better invest more time into actually defining it. And one other thing, just to wrap up on this, is I feel that humanity, even nowadays, is not putting enough diversity into solving AI safety, in a sense that I feel that we are much more than just the bandwidth of our language is being the language that AI ingests. That's one dimension. The other dimension is that the AI is being defined by a very narrow part of humankind that have very narrow worldviews, that have very narrow understanding and similar understanding of some of the problems, the solutions, and so on. So setting a terminal goal in that way with a very narrow group of people just laying down the goals did not feel uh, right for the entire humanity, because I feel I'm a very strong proponent of diversity, and I feel that there is an inherent value in like the whole of humanity and the way how different nations, states, you name it, companies, on all of those levels, how they differently solve problems. Just because today, for a specific problem and a specific distribution, like the US or Chinese economy is very strong, doesn't mean that Persian culture or sub-Saharan African culture don't have to contribute to future of humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. A close friend of mine uh, has a similar feeling of it being crazy that a small number of people are making this decision on behalf of everyone, and they are trying to popularize the idea of ensuring that we should all decide about the future of humanity, and we should all decide together. Do we want to build AI systems that surpass humanity at all capabilities? Like, is that a thing we actually want? Because it's kind of the direction we're going in is roughly that. It's plausible that very few people actually want this outcome. I think there's a huge opportunity for us to try and bring more people into this conversation and ensure that the preferences and desires of a very, very small number of people do not steamroll the global economy and make everyone else's lives much worse. Yeah, maybe a second thought on this is my first language is Welsh. And I, growing up, was a very proud Welshman. Really wanted to preserve Welsh culture, preserve Welsh traditions, preserve the Welsh language. And for the past 5 or so years, had this big concern in my mind that when I have children, will they be able to speak Welsh? And I've noticed that just across basically every culture, we are all just becoming kind of the same, where we're all basically only just speaking English, and each generation speaks English in the same way that like TikTok generation speaks English in a very specific way. And a similar worry I have is that if more and more people have most of their conversations with ChatGPT, the way that they think and speak will be the way that ChatGPT thinks and speaks, or the way that it like parrots back to them. And so there's this like huge global convergence on a few ways of thinking. It just seems bad to me. Just like instinctively seems bad.
Thinking about it like as well, like I was thinking that LLMs should have a much higher temperature level by default, so that like they somehow don't tell everything the same way to everybody, or like keep the diversity to at some point in time, because what you're doing that way is kind of like having, maybe you're not at a global optimum, but still the global optimum for the entire humankind might not be everybody having the same set of information, everybody, because as we know from genetic algorithms, for example, and from history, like having a very narrow genetic set or a standardized set to begin with usually doesn't bring the best results.
Absolutely. So you were convinced that AI is a big deal, AI could be really dangerous, and you decided to step down from your role as the CEO of TradeCore in order to try and figure out what to do about this situation. How did it feel to make that decision?
To be completely honest with you, like working for TradeCore wasn't quite a walk in the park. So the company has significant liability, significant debt. On the other hand side, we have customers to serve. On my part, I need to figure out, how to make ends meet at the end of the month and so on. So on one hand side, I was happy to kind of get things together and find a successor and leave. So find a different set of problems to solve, because I was thinking that I was focusing also more on those internal problems, making sure that one company works, right? So in a grander scheme of things, whether or not TradeCore exists doesn't change that much. So uh, I felt like it's time to move on, but also this was heavily substantiated with this fact that actually there is a space where I feel it's underfunded, underserved, and I feel that my set of skills might be useful for something.
Absolutely. So you left TradeCore in 2023, and then in 2024 you did the Blue Dot alignment course and also the AI governance course. I'd love to hear like how did you come across Blue Dot, and what role did those courses have on your journey into the AI safety field?
What struck me immediately is like, hey, there are like two main tracks. Here is a technical track, here is a governance track. That's nice. I know that I was in between those two in a sense, because on one hand side, I was working technical things previously with PhD and so on, but also on the other hand side, I'm coming from a sort of a regulated industry, and I understand the the way how policy works in a way. So I actually apply to both, and luckily enough, I got in and invited. And I feel that, going through those courses was, in fact, transformative for me. First of all, I feel that the curriculum that was put together is very valuable, and it's being kept up to date, and it's been very valuable for me to go through, but also like the interactions with the members of the team, and then like some sort of joint discussions, and then the project in the end, actually, where you need to do something for real, something you need to produce something and put it out there. I look at it as the entrance door to the AI safety for myself.
That's amazing. And after you had done the courses, what was your journey after that?
When I've completed the courses, I was thinking of myself like a Swiss knife full of tools, and I'm now gonna go alone in this battle. Let me have it, in a sense that I was thinking I can make projects or things that are immediately going to be impactful. So starting a blog, or doing the AI risk index website. And then at the same time, I'm starting to like understand that there is an entire ecosystem behind it, and I start to get acquainted. So it was also, I think, with the help of Blue Dot that I've met Gabor Zorat, who is a guy that also went, I think, on the governance course. And then he introduced me to another person that's called Mike McCormick, who then helped me a lot.
So Mike McCormick at Halcyon Futures, he that introduced you to Chris and the team at Lucid Computing?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, if you maybe could just give a very short introduction to Lucid Computing, like what is their mission statement, and what type of problem are they trying to solve in the world?
Lucid is trying to shine a light on dark compute. The company is basically in the space of AI compute governance. So what we believe in is that by in between having like a raw tokens and the actual intelligence of the answer, if we can provide some sort of a governance layer that understands, what the number of tokens is, what's been used for training, what data sets have been used, what guardrails have been used and whatnot, like you can name where it has been trained and so on, we can get to a position to understand and prevent more of the sort of bad illicit behavior of LLMs, but also help convey the trust in between different entities. Those entities might be different AI labs that are now racing towards ASI or AGI or whatnot, or they can even be two governments. We think that as a human, as you communicate with other people, you're presented with some sort of identity, you're presented with some sort of a proof, credentials around that person. And right now, we are more and more interacting with the AI, and with the onset of AI agents, it's going to become more and more evident. So we believe that there needs to be a system that provides the same level of trust and credibility for each and every AI we communicate with.
So if I've understood this correctly, and I'll paraphrase from conversations I've had with Christian as well. So it's like you are building a kind of technology and software and hardware stack that can be used inside data centers to verify what AI chips or compute they have in the data centers, and also what AIs are actually running on those chips. A phrase I heard from Christian, which I quite liked, was the model passport. All humans have a passport, a way to identify ourselves in terms of like, I am Dewi, I have a British passport. It's a bunch of numbers that are unique to me. And we can have a similar thing for AI systems so that we know that we are actually interacting with a specific AI model that has specific characteristics. Where right now we have no idea like what we're talking to.
Absolutely. So AI passport is a vessel to convey trust to either the user or another entity.
We've described a lot of ways in which we are worried about AI, or there's a lot of motivations here are focused on, wow, AI could be this big scary thing. But I'm curious, what does a good outcome for humanity with AI look like to you?
That's an excellent question, and I think I don't think about it often enough, because I feel like if everything goes that way, I mean, I don't care if it's going to be like 5% left or 5% right to the optimal outcome. But I think that people will need to figure out the way how to improve in a way how they use AI, in a sense that right now AI or LLMs more specifically, you if you put in whatever problem you have, you will get something out. So understanding at which phase of your like project or problem solving to actually use AI, and at which you actually need to like keep your critical thinking, so understanding the capabilities of AI and so on. I think this is going to be a crucial part of the learning for the human race, for the even now it is, but like for the next few years. So, and also for me, one of the optimal outcomes would be that we don't lose our ability to think critically. Rather, we find ways to augment it by rubber ducking off of AI or whatnot. So it's been something that I've been doing. So I'm always trying to like export to AI some of the initial, let's say, phases of a job where I need a lot of data collected and sorted in a way that I can understand. And then from there, I have a critical point of thinking, solving the problem. And then when I get with the solution, I want the AI to probe the solution. I wanted to understand where I could have gone differently or better or whatnot. And then in the end, I wanted to maybe polish the results and put it in a form that is more convenient for a specific audience, for a specific thing. So that's one example. And I think this is changing, at least if we do a half a good job at governing AI.
So key thing here is being able to use AI effectively, and also knowing when not to use AI, and knowing when to not delegate all of the cognitive processing to this external thing, but when to think for ourselves. And as a species, for us all to learn this, so that we don't all collectively kind of have our mental capacities atrophy.
Yeah, rather we can actually like improve our mental capacity. So I feel that AI has the capability nowadays to improve or like degrade your mental capacity depending on how you use it. And our brains are optimization machines that want to use as little energy as possible. So it's easy to slide that way, but we need to kind of structure this program so that people understand and know that there is something that they know better than AI still. And like to come back to your question around where are we in like 15 or 20 years, I feel that like the potential of economic impact of AI is very significant, even with the technology that we have today. And this can come out in a lot of different ways. So a bad outcome for me would be to have even much higher disparity in between the rich and the poor, which I think can happen because the default scenario is that the value of labor would probably go down and the value of capital would go up. So I would say that the optimal outcome for me would be a scenario where even if the value of capital is going up and the value of labor is going down, we still have jobs that are being done by humans. So we find what are called unbounded scenario, where we find jobs that people are better at. So maybe a new category of jobs, like being a human being towards another human being or something like that. It doesn't need to be like overly complicated. That's one thing. And then finding a way to actually discover this new economy where we can either use this disparity or mitigate it, but somehow that the benefits are distributed more evenly across the humankind. And I'm not thinking only about like the economic benefits. I'm also thinking about access to technology, access to learning, and like agency in things, because it seems like this default scenario is depriving agency from most of the people, and then like focusing the agency on just a very handful of people, which is the scenario that I'm not very happy with, obviously.
Lots of people listening to this will be trying to advance in their career in the direction of AI safety. People would do dumb things. They do silly things. What are the like silly things or patterns you have noticed that flagging here could help prevent someone else from making that same mistake?
The older I am, the less I think I have the right to give advice to other people. But I'll give like things that I would do differently if I were, and that I strive to do differently. I'll go back to the Swiss knife story. So I think I would have benefited if instead of like trying to do a lot of things on my own, I would probably advise people to actually start to understand first where they are, where they're trying to land. So what is the ecosystem? What are the specific players like Blue Dots and Catalysts and the others in the world? Because I feel right now, especially for the field of AI safety, there is almost a pipeline where that you need to go. And there's also, I think, a decent article from a guy named Gorgo, I think, on actually entering this EA space and so on, that maps some of the things that I've been through. So rather than like going straight to it, which has its own values in the sense that you understand where you are, but also like kind of mixing it with understanding the ecosystem and then plotting it and plotting your way through it, and having as many interactions as possible with other people from the field. I feel that's crucial. I feel that nothing important happens like in your room, in your office. All the important things are actually happening with like in this initial phase when you need to understand where you're going to go. Of course, I'm not at all denying the value of you having like a focus time and trying to solve the hardest problem in alignment or Mac interp or whatnot. I'm not going down that route. I'm saying like if you're beginning, because it comes again to assumptions. Like if you go somewhere without actually understanding where you are assuming that this is the right way to go.
Yep.
Rather than taking big steps towards that, take a smaller step and try to see if the direction is good, and try to like have frequent learnings. And frequent learnings in those phases are usually obtained through communication with other people from the field. And this is where I feel also like Blue Dot Slack channel is a very good a tool, and there are a few other organizations as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, taking lots of small steps, learning as quickly as possible, talking to as many people as quickly as possible. I think that is really great advice. Any final advice or thoughts you want to share with the audience before we wrap up?
The field where we are is very interesting and challenging. There are a lot of incredibly smart people that are here. I feel that it's gonna grow tenfold pretty soon, and we need much more diversity. I think that the next few years there will be a huge economic impact, and there will be jobs related to actually making sure that this impact is mostly upside and not that much downside. So there are like different horizons of risk, if you will, and not everybody needs to work on like the catastrophic risks. So there are different ways that I feel this society can benefit someone entering the AI safety and understanding how to govern, how to produce basically better future with AI, helping the odds in a way.
That's amazing. Great. Well, I think that's a wonderful place to end. Really appreciate this conversation, Milos. This has been awesome. And yeah, best of luck to you and the rest of the team at Lucid on your mission to build model passports and enable verified trust of AI usage.
Thanks so much, Dewi. And then, if there's anything else that I can do for you guys at Blue Dot, or if there's something I can help with, you know that I'm around.
Beautiful. Thank you.